Hello, and welcome to the Argyle HR Hiring and Retention Workforce Summit. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have some important information to share with you, and then we'll turn the floor over to our opening keynote speaker. First, we would like to take a moment to thank today's sponsors, Eightfold AI, UiPath, and Verified Credentials. Our sponsors are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which includes complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active tweeters, please use the hashtag Argyle Digital and follow us on Twitter at Argyle Exec Forum. Also, be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. I would like to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we have curated based on the feedback we have received over the years from our members. We have worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today, and we appreciate our members' support of this policy. Finally, and most importantly, we want to hear from you. So during each session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Following each presentation, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Thank you again for joining us today. Now, let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Peggy Sullivan, author of Happiness is Your Responsibility. We are excited to have Peggy with us for her opening keynote presentation titled, Busyness is Bad for Business. Welcome, Peggy. Over to you.
Welcome, and thank you for having me. I am beyond thrilled to be here today. There's a poll for you to participate in, and I'd love to hear from you, but let's get started. We are all experiencing a number of challenges today. Inflation, the economy, quiet quitting, rising customer expectations, always-on communications, supply chain issues, the digital explosion. The list is long, each individually problematic, but collectively they come from one root cause that needs addressing: corporate busyness. Spending too much time on low-value activities. We all know what that's like, getting to the end of the day without having enough time for what is truly important. Today's hustle society teaches us that busyness is good. It's a status symbol. It's a sign of importance. Susan works long hours, and even on weekends, she is such a rock star. Joe is the best multitasker ever. He gets a lot done. He is really good at what he does. While busyness has an upside, and it feels so good getting things done, there's also a downside to busyness. It deteriorates our mental and physical health, employee engagement, and our ability to be truly productive, to move the bottom line forward. My research shows, and I do a lot of research on the workforce, that 75% of the population is stuck in a cycle of busyness and would love to be less busy, but they just don't know how to get off the hamster wheel. That's where I come in. Hello. My name is Peggy, and I am a recovering busyness addict. Eat, work, sleep, repeat. It's been my mantra for years. I'm a single mom, a career woman. Being busy is part of my DNA. I love being busy. I love it to pieces, but sometimes being busy doesn't love me back. I'd like to go back to a time when busyness just didn't love me back. I was the marketing director at Blue Cross Blue Shield, And it was a normal day. I had many meetings and I walked into yet another meeting and everybody was staring at me and I couldn't figure out why. Did I have coffee on my shirt? Did I have blueberries in my teeth? Was my fly down? I just walked in and sat down. And then Dr. Lee whispered to me, he said, Maggie, you're as white as a ghost. Your pupils are dilated and your lips are blue. Do you feel okay? And I took a pause and I realized I did not feel okay. I had a searing pain in my chest. Next thing I know, I'm flat on my back on the way to the hospital. And I kept on thinking to myself, how could this be happening to me? How could I be having a heart attack? I'm not even 40 yet. I'm young. I'm healthy. I take care of myself. And then I started thinking about how busy I had been. I had been working on a really big project. I had been up day and night. It was one of those projects that really made your career. I wanted to do a good job. I would do a good job. But I was also raising my son singly, and I was also going through a very, very messy divorce. I was busy. When I got to the hospital, they told me I had indeed had a heart attack. I was in the hospital for over 5 days and missed work for over a month. Busyness was not my friend. It was a wake-up call to me and to the organization. That big project that I had been working on, well, we didn't get it done on time. And we actually lost $900,000 in revenue. Me, I spent a month without my son, lying in bed, convalescing. It wasn't a fun time, but it was a wake-up call. So let's take a look at how busy you are on the Richter scale. I'd like to start to ask you a series of questions, and we'll take a look at collectively how busy your organization is. Question number 1, your workforce multitasks as a strategy to get their work done. Yes or no? Looks like most of the people participating say yes. The next one, employees spend more than 50% of their time in meetings or on menial tasks. Once again, it's an overwhelming yes. Next question, your employees feel overwhelmed or are missing deadlines. Here we go again, a lot of yeses. And last, your employees regularly communicate that they don't have time for work that really lights them out. Looks like we had a lot of yeses in that. And what that means is that your employees' ability to focus is really suffering, and that is not a good thing. There is a sweet spot beyond busyness. There is a place where peak performance, wellness, and happiness can live without sacrificing one for the other. And I'm about to share that process with you. I call it the 3-step busy busting process. And the good news is that it is actionable, it moves the needle, and has already helped thousands. Let's take a look at this. Step number 1 is about mastering the metrics. It's about getting a level for your busyness, a score. But more importantly than that, it's about understanding what your habits are and what low value activities you're spending time on. Step number 2 is about mojo making. It's about igniting happiness rituals. It's about stepping into your power and having as much positive energy as possible. And step number 3 is what I call values vibing. It's about unlocking your value, unlocking all of your values. not just what you value, but what is valued within you, and being able to use those every single day. Let's peel the onion back a little bit. Step number one, the busy barometer. People call it the ultimate listening tool. It's a 3 to 4 minute survey that provides a metric for your busyness. But much more than that, what it does is it takes a look at why you were busy. What were you doing? And it gives you solutions based on what your habits and what your preferences are. So if you were like Joe and you were multitasking, it would say, hey, Joe, multitasking means your left and your right brain are trying to fire up at the same time. It's impossible for both of them to work simultaneously. Multitasking actually takes 2.5 times longer. Stop multitasking. Or if your schedule was overly full, it would say you have too much pre-scheduled. There's no time for the unexpected, no time to get your work done. The busy barometer identifies what habits you need to change so you can find time for what you value. Research shows that there are 3 primary roadblocks to us being productive. Number 1 has everything to do with your calendar and being able to prioritize. If we fill our calendar to the brinks, we don't have time for the unexpected and we don't have time to get our work done. And the busy barometer will identify that for you. The second thing that is a big roadblock, 76% of the population doesn't have time for basic self-care. Did you know that 40% of the population goes to bed without even brushing their teeth? We need to make self-care a priority. We need to make sure that employees come to work with their gas tanks full so they can give 100%. And the busy barometer identifies when you're not taking proper self-care. And last, but certainly not least, it also measures how much time you spend in meetings and how much time you spend on distractions. The average employee gets interrupted 58 times a day. Stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. 58 times. That's a lot of stopping and starting. It's no wonder we don't get a lot done. This is my friend Amani Fancy. I met her at a business conference in Boston a couple of years ago. Amani had just retired from the Olympics. She was a winner of Dancing on Ice in Europe. And she was starting a new job in the States. She was head of growth and development. And so she started her job with all of the vim and the vigor that her training as an athlete provided for her. She decided she was going to work hard. So she set up 8 to 10 appointments every single day. And it worked out well. She was meeting her sales goals. She was making commission. Everybody was happy. But within 8 months, she started realizing she wasn't happy. She didn't have time to focus on what she called the big opportunities, the big rocks. So she took the busy barometer and it told her, Amani, cut back. You need to do less. So Amani decided that she was, instead of doing her normal 8 to 10 appointments a day, she was only going to do 4 to 5. Funny thing happened. Amani's sales improved 500% in the course of 3 months. Amani now has a Post-it note right on her computer that she looks at every single day. Busy is not better. Step number 2 in the busy busting process is all about mojo making. We tend to think about happiness as a destination, a thing. I will be happy when I get that project done, when I get married, when I get the corner office. But that's not what happiness is all about. Happiness is a series of intentional acts that we do for ourselves that give us joy. I know for me, every day, no matter where in the world I am, and I do travel a lot, I take some time to eat 3 pieces of Dove dark chocolate. A small thing, but I close my eyes and enjoy the smell and the taste, and it pushes my reset button. I know I was talking with Eric, another one of the people that helped coordinate the conference, and he was telling me about his fur babies and how much he enjoyed spending time with them when he was working. There are all things that we can do to ignite our joy. And the thing about joy is that it's biological. When we are happy, our brain releases endorphins. We have more energy. We have more brain power. I worked at United Healthcare for a number of years. I headed up the customer experience department. I had 750 customer service reps that reported to me. When I started the job, my big goal was to improve customer resolution, the amount of time it took to close a customer issue. So I decided I was going to bring happiness rituals to United Healthcare. So for 3 months, we took 5-minute breaks. Sometimes we had dance parties, sometimes we ate ice cream cones, sometimes we watched Seinfeld clips. But the funny thing happened at the end of these 3 months. Issue resolution improved 240%. I have taken these happiness rituals and incorporated them into many an organization. They work because they push the reset button. They give us energy, enthusiasm. And it's a lot of fun to work someplace where you get to be happy. Step number 3 is all about values vibing. It's about unlocking your values. It's about having a sense of purpose, knowing what ignites you. I've spoken in front of thousands of people and asked them, what are your core values? And people start to Google their core values. It's really hard to know what things really light you up besides the basic things we all think about. Research shows that there are 4 core values that really add to end state quality of life. Connection, feeling connected to work, to family, to friends. Maybe it's a yoga studio. Growth, learning something new every day, having a sense of accomplishment. Energy, this is all about self-care, filling your gas tank up and having a positive energy. And last but not least is about authenticity, right? We all want a psychological safe place to work. And we can only be that if we get to be authentic and we get to be ourselves. Step number 3 also involves what I call a values report card. You get to score your values and understand what you're not doing well. So all of you can tell I am struggling with a cold. I actually took this values report card in the beginning of the week, and it told me that I wasn't taking great self-care. I was too busy. So I'm going to take a moment and drink a glass of water. Thank you for letting me do that. I feel a lot better. That wasn't planned. It's just that sometimes we just don't take time for self-care, and self-care is so important. Last but not least, we can all move beyond busyness. When we are intentional in what we do, our happiness rises. We get more productive. we find a place where we get more done and the bottom line of every organization improved. There's been case study and case study of showing how this happens. Busyness holds us back. There is a place where we can be bigger and we can be better. Busy isn't better. We all need to slow down, to speed up. I want to thank you all. I'd love for you to reach out to me. And I'd also love for any of you to scan this QR code. There's a copy of the Busyness Barometer. There's my email. I would love to hear from each and every one of you. I'm going to leave this up, but I know that Nick is going to lead me, or Lindsay, in some Q&A. So let me take a pause and let's see what questions you have for me. I know we've got about 5 minutes left.
Great. Thanks, Peggy. Here's a question. How would you suggest that we incorporate our focus on better quality of life into our hiring process? We want candidates to understand that it is important to us.
I suggest asking them right off the bat, you know, what do you need? What do you want? What is important to you? When you know that upfront from your candidates, it is a lot easier for you to share that with your managers, their managers, and to integrate it into the workforce. And that is a curious thing because everybody's going to answer that question a little bit differently. But when we take the time to really listen and to get those answers, we find that we can give individuals exactly what they want and what they need.
Great. And what is the biggest mistake that you think companies make when trying to improve team productivity?
There isn't a one size fits all. COVID has had us all get into individual habits. We have always on communications. There are so many things distracting us. And that's why I did the Busy Barometer, because there are so many different things that keep us from what's important. So when you monitor and measure that, you know exactly what is slowing you down, and you can work on that thing, one thing at a time, and make progress with it. This QR code will give you a copy of the Busy Barometer. I suggest you throw it out to your employees and you will learn what is holding them up, where they are getting hung up. I've done this survey thousands of times, and it's always something a little different for each workforce.
Great. And what are some ways to make employees feel more comfortable about discussing their workloads? We think some fear layoffs or other retribution if they say anything.
Well, you heard my story about how burning out kept me out of work for 5 weeks. I didn't want to raise my hand and tell the workforce, tell my employer that I was exhausted. Instead, I decided I was going to have a heart attack. Actually, I didn't decide, it decided for me. But there is a price to be paid for busyness. And I think it's important that we openly talk about it. It's important that managers talk about it. It's important that our managers look at our employees, and when they're working long hours, that they say, hey, have you taken some time to recharge your batteries? I start out every meeting with every employee that works for me by asking them, how are you? And I really listen to what they say. And if they tell me that they're not feeling well or they're overly busy, I encourage them, and I also will take a look at their workload and redistribute things accordingly, because when they're not at their best, they can't do their best.
Great. And here's another interesting question. We've noticed a significant decrease in attention to company-wide communications, especially among our hybrid/remote workers. We worry that they have checked out and worry about productivity. Any tips for assuring that our communication is more effective?
Less is more. The average employee has 6 different mechanisms to communicate. it's overwhelming. They don't know what to do first. So they just check out. So it's so important not to overly communicate. And I always tell people, pick up the phone or have a couple of meetings where you really say important things, and that people know that when you go to a meeting, there is an agenda, there is a purpose. I start off every meeting with, the purpose of my meeting is, there will be time to discuss XYZ, and you will all walk away with action items that you need to know about, or you will know about what the next steps are. And I think it's just the quality of our communications. We need to focus on being more succinct. Less is more.
Great. And I think we have time for one more question. A lot of employees claim that being super busy is what they want. How do you think HR leaders can find the right balance for workloads and communicate that to managers?
No doubt being busy is good. Being busy is not binary. It's not good or bad, but being busy can lead to deterioration of health, and being busy can lead to getting to the end of the day and not having time for what's important. If your employees don't have time for family, if they don't have time for the things they love, then they cross that fine line and they are too busy. I've written a book called Beyond Busyness because I originally thought busy was a good thing. But what I've learned is that there's a fine line beyond busyness where it gets to be unproductive. We all cross that line. And so it's important to ask ourselves every day, do I have time for what's important? If the answer is no, then you are too busy.
Great. And do you have anything to add, Peggy?
It's just been such a pleasure to meet with all of you. I truly encourage each and every one of you to reach out to me. I love hearing from you. I love understanding what's going on in your world, and I love helping. And just thank you so much. What a privilege and what an honor to be with you today. And I apologize for having the tail end of a cold. I tried really hard. It got the best of my voice a little bit here and there, but I'm just thrilled to be here and to have had the opportunity to speak for your organization. Thank you.
Great. And thank you, Peggy, for an excellent keynote. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.